Illini football fans need a little positivity in their lives, and you know what? I'm going to try to give it to you.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to another edition of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. My name is Andrej Bielema, your host here at Locked On, where I continue to provide you coverage each and every day. I ask for nothing in return, but if you don't mind, and if you're feeling generous, I wouldn't say no to you hitting the like button on this particular video, and make sure you're subscribed. We're so close to 3,500 subs on YouTube. You could be number 3,500. Let me know if you are in the comment section. Now, before I get started with the show, in case you missed yesterday's show, for those of you who watched last week, you know that myself and Jacob Goins from Locked On Hoosiers, we made a little bet about who's going to be the victor on Saturday night. And we all know what happened. We're not going to rehash it. Indiana won. And thus, me being a man of honor, I have to, unfortunately, wear this Indiana Hoosiers hat for all 5 episodes this week. So I apologize. And again, I'll say it. If you don't like the look, and I don't blame you if you don't, you can always just listen this week on the audio side. Just find us on your favorite audio platform. This hat's not even fitting right. See, this is ridiculous. You can always find us on your favorite audio platform. We're available at midnight. You can actually listen to these shows, believe it or not, at midnight every single night before you can even watch them on YouTube. So if that is something, if your commute starts before these shows premiere at 7 a.m. Central every day, feel free to, again, subscribe to us on your favorite audio platform, and you can listen to it before we get started. But let's talk about today. Again, the football game is in the rear view mirror. We're not going to really talk about that much because, it happened. And blips are going to happen in any sort of season. And again, just my interactions with Illini fans, whether it's on social media or it's in my group text or even in the Talk Illini Discord, a lot of people are down right now. And I understand why. But I'll also say that Indiana does this to a lot of people. And so it's one of those where I know what happened against Indiana was unfortunate, and we suffered a lot of injuries. But I just got done watching the press conferences from Bret, Aaron Henry, and Barry Lunny Jr. And quite honestly, I understand being down, but I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic. And so I'm going to see if I can get you guys to join me on the bandwagon, because I don't think this season is over yet. At least that's how a lot of Illini fans are kind of acting recently. So let's see what we can do. First off, injury report. I'm just going to start off with the negative because it's the biggest thing that came from this press conference from Bret Bielema. Xavier Scott, unfortunately, is going to be shut down for most of the season. I believe he's getting a procedure done on Wednesday. There's a chance he comes back at the end of the year, but who knows when it comes to that? Who knows how much the games are going to be mattering at that point? And so I wouldn't exactly count on that, but that was obviously clearly the big takeaway from Monday's press conferences. And granted, that's a huge negative. There was actually a lot of positive news as well. It sounds like Kaleb Patterson, Torrie Cox, Mac Rusetich are all going to be okay in the secondary for Saturday's game. Now, take this with a grain of salt, right? It's when Bret Bielema says somebody's going to play, we never really know. For the last couple of weeks, he's been telling us so-and-so looks like they might play, and they end up showing up on the injury report and not playing. Jaheim Clark, of course, being the main culprit here. So right now, all I can go is based on the information we're being given. And it looks like, next week on Saturday, with USC coming into town on homecoming, big noon, a lot of us were worried that our secondary was going to be severely depleted. And, you saw how a severely depleted Illini secondary looks against the Indiana Hoosiers in that second half. They looked awful. Well, it looks like that some of those reinforcements are coming back. Patterson, Cox, Rusetich should be back in the secondary. Matthew Bailey still to be determined. Matthew did suffer a concussion, and he's going through protocol right now. Now, again, I'm just going to say, Bret Bielema says he expects him to pass, but what does that mean? Let's just say hypothetically, for the sake of context of this segment that I'm going to do, where I am spinning positive, because I think a lot of us need a little positivity. Let's just say, hopefully he'll be able to return. And even if he's not able to return this week, you're talking about him more than likely being there for Purdue the following week, which I think most of us can say is not going to be an easy matchup with the fight that they put up against Notre Dame. The score may have looked lopsided, but if you watch the game with us and the folks in the Discord, Purdue was putting up a fight. So it's nice to have Matthew Bailey hopefully back against USC on Saturday, but I would expect him to come back at least by Purdue. Aiden Lawfrey and Justin Bowick were both guys that we expected to play Saturday against Indiana. Didn't happen, and it just looks like it was kind of circumstance. Bret said that they didn't get the packages in for Justin Bowick. Having Justin Bowick and Aiden Lawfrey will be huge for this offense. And, obviously, number one, the biggest concern is going to be, has Bret Bielema, has Bart Miller, has Barry Lundy Jr. figured out what they're going to do with that offensive line? Because that offensive line has been getting schooled by essentially every team that they played this year, particularly the first half. It hasn't been the embarrassment that it was against Indiana, where I believe they allowed 7 sacks. But if you don't fix the offensive line, it doesn't matter who's healthy in that defensive backfield. You're probably going to lose on Saturday, which, by the way, I believe the spread right now is 7.5 at our friends from FanDuel. So, a game which I thought would be a pick'em about a week ago is now a 7.5 point underdog for the Illini against the Trojans. You let me know which way you're leaning on that. But if Bowick's there, if Lawfrey's there, and, the good thing is, even if you don't completely fix your offensive line, which I think it's going to be hard, USC's defensive line isn't quite as potent as the Indiana Hoosiers one is. Now, I've said it before, USC's offense is a lot better, and that's why the importance of having that secondary healthy is such a priority. The offensive line still, they just need to get to average. And I know I keep repeating myself, and my everydayers in here have heard me say this, but it's taken a few games for the last couple seasons for this offensive line to get going. Those of you who have a good memory, after game 4 last year, after game 5 the year before, we were all complaining about the same thing. What's wrong with this offensive line? What changes are going to be made? Now, the staff did end up making adjustments both seasons. And ultimately, by the end of the year, the offensive line was not only average, but actually respectable. Enough so that we all thought that bringing those guys back this past offseason was going to be a huge boon for the Illini. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case so far. But maybe Bart Miller, Bret Bielema, 2 guys you would think, especially in particular Bret, and his work with offensive line, his entire collegiate coaching career, will have some sort of secret sauce and bring back that magic for a 3rd season in a row. You just need to be average, because I think having Justin Bowick back, having Aiden Lawfrey back, you give yourself a chance against that USC defense. Now, most of the focus and blame should go on the offensive line, but Luke Altmyer's got to turn it up a notch as well. He said it himself, and Barry Lundy Jr. confirmed in the press conference earlier today that he's not seeing the field as well as he has in the past. Now, again, Indiana is one thing. USC is going to be another. We're going to need 30, 35, 40 points against USC. But I think Luke can give it to us. I think if his weapons are there and he gets that time, if the offensive line gives him that time, I think we have a fighting chance. Bret Bielema said it himself. Coming into the Indiana game, Illinois had the longest win streak of anybody in college football. And when you finally do lose, it stings. And Bret Bielema said himself, he wants it to sting. He doesn't want you to like the way that feels. They talked about how they watched tape literally on the drive back home from Bloomington. They understood that mistakes were made, and they understood there's a lot of things that need to be corrected. Again, I'll say this, 63-10 is not going to make anybody feel good. And I'm not even trying to sugarcoat that in any sort of way. But what I'm saying is there were circumstances that eventually led to 63-10. This was not one of those regular drubbings that Indiana puts on different teams. Indiana was clearly the better team Saturday. Don't think I'm arguing that. Indiana is clearly the better football team, but 63-10 was because of some of those injuries, just the ineptness of this offensive line, which isn't necessarily an Indiana thing. It's looked bad against everybody. And so when you're at this point, when you're excited for arguably the biggest game in recent program memory, and you put out a dud like that, and then you see what the schedule looks like the next couple of years, yeah, I can understand that. There's people in the Discord who are wondering if we're going to win 7 games this year. I think we'll be okay. I think you should think we're going to be okay too. If we can get healthy again. I talked about it during the offseason when the schedule came out. Illinois doesn't have a bye week to what? Week 7? Something along those lines. We talked about, like, with it being such a front-loaded schedule, if you were to have injuries in that first half of the schedule, you could be in serious trouble. How nice would it be to have a bye week right now? So we could have Matthew Bailey, hopefully ready 2 weeks from now. Get all these guys who are banged up against Indiana an extra week of rest. Unfortunately, that's just not how it worked out. And so I think that these guys apparently being ready to play on Saturday, it's a very fortunate bounce for the Illini. But I've been watching USC tape. They're a good football team. But Lincoln Riley historically has struggled when it comes to the thick and thin of the Big Ten. It's just his style doesn't work very well with the physical style that this conference brings. Now, they beat Michigan State last week, but if you follow the pulse of Michigan State athletics right now, they're unsure of this whole Jonathan Smith thing right now. They're not where they need to be. They're clearly a bottom half, maybe bottom third team in the Big Ten Conference. I'm sitting here telling you I believe Illinois is still a top third team in the Big Ten Conference. They're clearly just not in the top 4. I trust that this loss has left a really bad taste in Bret and the rest of the coaching staff and absolutely the players themselves in their mouths. And so I think big changes are coming. I'm hoping for it. And if this is a healthy team, and if Illinois can take care of USC on Saturday in that electrifying atmosphere, I know Grange Grove is going to be rocking. Big Noon is going to be there, guys. That if you can take care of USC, you're 4-1. And then, you know what? All of a sudden, I think the mindset of a lot of fans turns around a little bit. You have a big game against Purdue. Purdue, again, they put up a fight, but I still think that Illinois is a clearly better football team than they are. And all of a sudden, 4-1 after USC, 5-1 after Purdue. At 5-1, you're very close to a playoff berth. And I think that you just got a couple of tough games left. And you can see that, hey, maybe we leave the intimidating part of our schedule at 6-2 or 5-3. And then you get to breathe a little bit with the second half of the schedule. I think most Illini fans will take that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Are you guys jumping off ship already? I hope not. This is a really good football team. They had a really, really bad Saturday night. But that doesn't mean that they don't deserve your support. This episode is also brought to you by Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. Just think about it. It's the kind of place where you walk in and everyone knows your name. The staff are like family, and they've been serving your community for years. Those local spots are what make the neighborhood feel like home, and so many of them run on Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pull up Game Time every time I'm thinking about going to a game. I see the price and I click on the button so I can see exactly what the view from my seat is going to be. If I like it, I'll go ahead and purchase a ticket. It makes it that easy. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, the promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go. Download Game Time today. The football staff wasn't the only one to meet with media on Monday. Brad Underwood met for the day one to kick off preseason practice. Teams can officially start practicing on Monday, September 22nd. And so Brett met with the media a little bit for about 10 minutes or so. And he dropped some interesting nuggets, which I'll kind of go over bit by bit over this week just to kind of spread out the basketball news. But there's one major thing that I'm going to address in tomorrow's episode or maybe the day after, which I think you guys will find really interesting. But this little nugget also kind of jumped out at me. And that's him talking about Andrej Stojakovic. Unfortunately, here we go again. This looks like it's an injury that's going to be taking a little longer than we originally thought. As of now, at least as of Monday, he says that this injury is going to last for at least a couple more weeks. He wasn't completely sure that Andrej would be ready by the open of the season. But, again, if you watch my episode on Monday that I dropped here on Locked On Illini, I talked about why, it's frustrating, but why I'm glad that the schedule worked out the way it did. Because this whole team just unfortunately hasn't been able to practice together. First, Mahalo has been gone because he couldn't get to campus, and now it looks like Andrej is going to be out for a month at this point. It's going to be a little over a month, about 6 weeks, I believe, from when we first originally found out about the injury. And then the season's going to start. So a lot of the first time that these guys are going to be playing together is going to be in game. So that's absolutely going to be very tricky, and why I'm glad the Big Ten schedule is so backloaded compared to the basketball schedule. But another thing that kind of stuck out to me about him talking about Andrej is he mentioned a couple times that he expects Stojakovic to be used differently than he has been used in the past. Now, this goes along with what a lot of people who are watching the practice are also suggesting. Brad Underwood made some waves a couple of weeks ago when he talked about the defensive prowess that Andrej was making and that he would be counted on as being one of your defensive guys on this basketball team. Now, that's a compliment, but speaking of a guy who averaged almost 18 points a game in the ACC last year, a guy who I predicted would be one of the top two scorers on the team on this upcoming season, it was a bit of a surprise. Now, he's very good at blocking shots for his position and his size, but I don't think he was necessarily ever considered a defensive stalwart. But it feels like Brad is kind of doubling down with what he said to the media today. There's no need to volunteer that information. There's no need to let other people know right now that, you expect Andrej's role to be a little bit different. But he did. So what could that role be? It looks like it's going to be less shooting and more put your head down and attack the basket. Kind of like the wings that we've been watching the last couple seasons. You Terrence Shannon Jr. At the end of the season last year, Will Riley. Maybe not take all the jump shots that Andrej took last year, because we know Brad Underwood doesn't like jump shots. Unless they're wide open three-pointers, Brad Underwood does not want you shooting inside that three-point line. The expected value that you're going to get from that in the world of this new age basketball analytics, it's just not worth it. So I think maybe now, if that's the expectation with Andrej, you're kind of looking at him being the guy who slices towards the basket. Maybe a two-man game that Will Riley and Tomislav had last year is going to involve Tomislav, but this year, Andrej Stojakovic. Maybe that expectation of him hitting 18 points per game like he did last year for Cal, that looks like it's out the window. Maybe it's just, hey, can you just be a 12-point scorer? When we need somebody to attack the basket, put their head down, go do that. That's fine. If that's ultimately what's going to, I mean, we're not watching practice, right? They are. They know what they're doing. This is, the deepness of this team got hurt a little bit when Ty Rodgers went down, but still relatively, there's a lot of good basketball players on this team, including Ben Hummerkaus, who Brad Underwood also talked a lot about, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But if Andrej is ultimately your third, fourth best player on this basketball team, guess what? I think you're in pretty good shape. Unless you completely miscalculated on how good of a player he was before he arrived on campus. But I don't think that's the case, because keep in mind, that Stojakovic recruitment, that wasn't easy. That was very stressful for Illini fans. It looked like it could be the Tar Heels or the Illini. Both fan bases were really passionate about that recruitment. And Illinois pulled out all stops to have Stojakovic come to Champaign. So obviously you really liked his talent. You really liked his play. And keep in mind, coming out of high school, Orlando Antigua recruited Andrej. So he's very familiar with his game. So some might say that, maybe Andrej has been a disappointment since he got onto campus. But I'm not going to say that because, again, you can laugh at me, but I'm trying to be positive here. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's simply, you know what? We think he's a very good basketball player, and what he can do is absolutely going to fill a very important role on this basketball team. But we don't need him to be what he was at Cal. We don't need him to be our best player at Illinois because we got players here. We have Tomislav. We have Mihailo Petrovic. We have Kylan Boswell. We don't need to rely solely on one guy. So how the expectations change one way or the other with Andrej, that's up to you to really decide. But I think initially when he signed on with us, and I said, hey, he could be our leading scorer, obviously I have to pivot a little bit from that. But regardless of what he ends up averaging on this basketball team, obviously he has a very important role on this team. Most importantly, we just have to focus on him getting healthy. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with each ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Nappa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. And welcome back. If you haven't hit the like button yet, what are you waiting for? I would absolutely sincerely appreciate that. As my goal to hit 3,500 subs on YouTube. And I think I mentioned it to you guys. We broke every download record that we possibly could have on the audio side this past week. And so I want to really appreciate you guys for all your continued support. It's especially on days like Saturday night. It's not easy to go live when I know the fan base is not very happy, but as silly as this sounds, as scary as it sounds, I enjoy doing it. I enjoy interacting with you guys. So leave a comment on this video. I absolutely will respond. Send me an email at talkillini@gmail.com or find me on your favorite social media. Send me a message. I always enjoy criticism as long as you make it constructive. If there's something you like about the show, something you don't like about the show, just let me know. I always appreciate that feedback. A couple things before I let you guys go today. Brad Underwood also talked about Ty Rodgers. No real update. Again, he didn't count him out for the season, but he also didn't say he would play this season. So I wish I had something more for you, something more substance, but Brad's just, being Brad Underwood as well. Him and Bret Bielema seem to be on the same page when it comes to this whole injury situation. Again, I'm not looking forward to him playing. I don't think he's going to be. I think the best case scenario is maybe sometime in 2026, but I feel like I at least needed to mention that at least. There's another winning program under the UVI banner, and that's, of course, the Illini women's soccer team. Katie Holton, the new coach, spoke and said that she wants every single seat filled, all the bleachers on the side filled up, because that energy is contagious for us. Folks, this team is 8-1-1. They deserve your support. So make sure if you can be there, be there. Thanks to Carson Garrity, who reported basically ESPN's new latest projections, bowl projections after that beatdown on Saturday. Right now we're projected to go either to the Music City Bowl in Nashville or the ReliaQuest Bowl in Tampa. Both games would be against the SEC. And again, I understand what the expectations are for this season, but ultimately, being an Illini fan for as long as I have been, I'll never take going to a bowl game for granted. Hopefully we'll go to as highest prestige one as we're allowed to, but any bowl is a good bowl. At least that's how I stand it. I'd love to hear your comments in the chat if you disagree, but I just want to update that. Obviously, the college football playoff talk has kind of gone out the window. It is what it is. Lastly, as I started recording, Bruce Pearl announced that he's going to be quitting and his son is going to take over at Auburn. And I think I speak on behalf of all Illini fans when I say good riddance. It's another big moment on Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. That's going to wrap it up for me today. Again, I've got a lot of content for you this week. I'll have a preview for USC. It's not going to be an easy game. We're going to learn a little bit about their players, a little bit about Lincoln Riley, and we'll see, we'll be as I'm going to get you guys as best prepared for what we're going to see on Saturday as I possibly can. Never miss any sort of dialogue in the Talk Illini Discord. Trust me, we're having a very good time right now. We're talking about potential show ideas, and some people want a certain assistant coach fired. Can you guess who? Join us in the Discord, and you can find out. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.